This is the 10-year anniversary special. Thank you for the towel, Crabs, by the way.
That's all right. That's all right. The little doily.
Oh!
Oh, it's happening everywhere.
Hurry up!
I told you to give it a little tap.
I tapped.
I didn't believe you.
Yeah.
I tapped.
Why are we here?
We're here. Project 27. Shouts. Drink West. Drinks best. We're here. Talk about Sticky Fingers. Vinyl. 10 years. How about it? A little bit over 10 years, but we got there.
The boxes have just arrived today.
Yeah. So what have we got inside? So we can see behind Patrick's head.
Mm-hmm.
Got this beautiful fold out. What else have we got here?
Yeah, show the cameras the fold out. Look at the extra artwork. It's behind my head
There's so much here you might have to help.
as well, actually. Yeah.
All right. So we've got the old artwork as well, guys. Check that out.
Let's put the old and new
Old and new.
together.
Yeah.
Because Sam wanted to have another crack because obviously he's drawn a lot of pictures and done a lot of paintings and murals and just explored life for another extra 10 years. And he said, can I have another crack at the cover?
Mm.
And it's sick. I love it. There's something still about the original that's just nostalgia though, isn't it? That's pure nostalgia.
Yeah.
But
It
this
is.
one's also very, very good, of course. And you should all buy it immediately.
So what else? We got some stickers in there.
Oh yeah. I'll show them the big
stickers.
fold out.
Show them the
Poster.
big fold out again.
The poster.
If
the
you're just
poster.
listening in the car, we got stickers, we got posters, we got a redrawn
Yeah, look at these. Look at these.
original artwork.
Look at these.
Stop your car. Have
Look
a
at these.
Stop the car, pull over now.
You have the poster though, Crabs. I think the massive poster. Because,
No, it was included in the vinyl, wasn't it?
yeah, on your little side. Oh, no.
No,
Here,
no.
here it is.
There we are.
Because the first time, 10 years ago, when we put up the first caress, we're like, oh, can we have like a big poster that like pulls out? And you just pulled out this tiny little thing. It was like, oh. But this time, we're not playing about. It's a big poster.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So it really amped
It's
it
not
up.
that big.
It's bigger.
It's bigger. It's not an A4, but yeah.
It's got Danny Lim on there too. Shout out to
does.
Danny Lim.
Yeah,
great.
He's come a long way since the other guy in the corner. I think that's Danny Lim there.
Well, that's the thing, hey, is it's kind of like when you put the covers together, it's like a lot of the characters are like all grown up kind of thing, which is cool. But yeah, that little fella becoming Danny Lim is quite the plot twist. Anyways,
No, it's cool that he redid it, and I guess he kind of wanted to redo parts of it. Hey, it's like when you wrote a song when you were 18, and you kind of like thought, "Fuck, let's just record it all again."
let's do it again.
It looks great. It sounds great too. Why does it sound great? Because it's been remastered
By John Lennon.
at Abbey Road Studios.
We brought him back from the dead.
Oh
And
yeah. Let's get out the bootleg tapes.
It also includes 5 extra bonus tracks. Is that correct? 5?
Yeah.
let's see. No, the bootleg. Here's the bootleg tapes. Side A is Dan Hume. If you guys have heard of that guy, he wanted to do a remix of Bootleg Rascal. I think it was me who was very forceful on those fake horns in the mix, and he has taken them out. First things first, there's Big Mitts, which is a new track. Well, it's an old track. It was before its time, but now it's perfectly in time. Track 3 is Easily, another freshie. Then there's Slow Soul, Won't Be Long, One Stop Shot. All tracks you haven't heard. And then
From the era that didn't make the cut. And we've decided now that they're good enough for you.
And me too.
Because they're a window into our past. Younger, more innocent, dumbass delinquents.
More dexteria.
We were faster.
And we didn't do too much to them.
And slower.
We were
Did we?
slower.
We didn't do too much to them. It's pretty much how they were.
We didn't do too much to them. We
Taras,
We wanted,
I don't know.
We
I
wanted to
think
keep the
those-
authenticity. Well, also, I think we didn't want, you don't want to, if you start doing too much to them, then you end up just, it loses, then we're just re-recording and rewriting parts, and you're not doing the song justice. You're just making it better.
I just completely zoned out. Every word he said just...
But they will be released
Suck me off.
online. You will be able to stream them, so don't worry.
But one of the other things that, about the vinyl is it was mixed by Dan Hume and produced by Dan Hume.
And some of you might be asking, who is this guy? This Dan Hume fella?
That
Crazy
brings
enough.
me to an introduction that I prepared earlier. And it goes a little something like this.
Take us away, Krebs.
Our first guest for 2024 was one of our most all-rounded and gifted musical collaborators to date. He met Paddy after witnessing our first legitimate performance at Newtown Festival back in 2011, and since then, he has remained a crucial member of the Sticky operation. Before we met the fella, Sticky's recorded sound felt more like you were listening to a looping fart in a laundromat or a late-night table tennis match in Pat Pong. It was no coincidence that once we brought him in, the opportunities for the band took off. Radio finally played our songs, an international following grew, and we cemented our sound with the now 10-year on debut record, Caress Your Mole, mixed and produced by the master himself, as we saw earlier. He then carried on to mix and produce our next 5 records, with Terrace on Lekkerboy too. Don't forget the beans. In the recording sessions, he was right by your side, pushing you for your best takes in a manner that would always make you feel calm and comfortable, even if you did have your shirt off, bulging eyes, and a dry mouth painted in red wine. At least that's how I remember Land of Pleasure. He often looked out for us outside of the sessions too, checking up on us when we weren't at our mental best, hanging backstage at our live shows, and patiently producing the Westway record in Thailand that would have sent most other professionals insane. Since then, the sober vegan running health nut has produced and worked with some of the biggest artists, both locally and internationally. And we're so lucky to have him consistently part of the ever-growing Sticky sound. Crossing live all the way from his home in Wales on the Boppa tonight, we welcome the unstoppable Mr. Dan Hume.
Whoa! Oh, mate, that was out of control. So nice.
You're out of control.
Nice to be on the
You really
Boppa.
are. Yeah, it's the Boppa tonight.
It's good to see you boys.
It's a nighttime version.
Boppa tonight.
It's our first night version.
Okay, well, I'm in the morning, but I'm going to enter night mode now.
Yeah.
No, it's great to see you guys. It's good to reminisce, you know. It feels like a day for it.
Well, that's what the whole episode's about.
It's all about you.
It's all about you, nostalgic.
Going back.
Yeah. I feel like we talk about you in interviews here and there, but we don't really get a chance to
Yeah,
get our fans
this
to
is
really
my
delve
first...
into you and your past, what you got going on.
I know.
What you think
I'm
of
not
us.
intentionally so, but I'm not intentionally so, but I am a somewhat elusive character.
That's what producers do, though. You escape all you escape all the bullshit.
Yeah, you kind of just hide away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just was elusive for a while, then stuck with it. But I think 2011, so 13 years ago.
Wow.
That's crazy. I have great fond memories of those times. Those were the best times.
It was a bit like on the fly, wasn't it? When we first started working with you, we were just doing an EP, weren't we? But then you kind of returned this amazing. I think you did mix like Caress
I'm
yourself
not sure
first.
what. Yeah, and also shout out Dylan, who engineered.
Dylan Adams.
Dylan Adams, of course.
At Mr. Milk Studios in Annandale.
Yeah. Everyone deserves a shout out. So my memory of it was, basically happened to be in Newtown Festival, hanging with my friend Alex. And then you guys just stormed on stage, and I was just like, what the fuck is going on here? It must have been quite early. In my memory, it was like early. Must have been, I don't know, around 12 or something. And then somebody walked on with holding a bottle of Jack Daniels, and I was just like, who thinks that they can do this at Newtown Festival? And then, show was great. I remember it just halfway through the show, I remember the sound engineer just put tons of tap delay on Dylan's voice, and it just started, I was like, this is actually really working, but it sounds insane. And then halfway through the show, I was like, I think this is actually really good. I didn't quite know what I was witnessing, but it just had some magic about it. And then, I walked up to buy a CD or, say hello. And then, you had already sold out of the CDs, or maybe you only brought 7 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't even think we had 7. I
then
don't
I
think
just
there
wrote-
was a CD. I think we
Anyway, I
tricked
wrote
you.
my name. I wrote my name on the. We didn't meet that day, but I wrote my name on the email list and said, "Send me some music." You had a little mailing list.
I think
Back in the
we
day,
managed to fool you really well in that you kind of got a picture of this band with some kind of like a Sydney band of some kind of following, but what you actually saw was just a band from the exact 200-meter radius in which they had, 70 friends who knew their music just because we'd abused their eardrums for the past 6 months to a year. And you're like, oh, these guys are kind of happening. And then I want to buy a CD.
Yeah, I think that's the way. I think that's the way to do it. I think everyone should hyper localize. I think you should just try and be the biggest band on your street before you take on the world.
We were world
think that
famous
makes
in the
sense.
park that day.
Yeah. No, it seemed like that. And I wasn't completely just taken by that, but I definitely was a bit confused at the start. I was like, why are people crowd surfing at in the middle of the day?
At a community
But,
festival.
Cold coin donation
I-
entrance.
Because that's what it's all about, Krebs. Community.
Community.
R.I.P. Newtown Fest.
I'm sure that
Yeah.
Mm.
It's all
Yeah.
wrapped up.
I can't get
When
the
did
big
it
headlines
RIP?
anymore, eh?
No.
Yeah, as soon as we don't play festivals on anymore, they
They
go
get banned.
bankrupt.
Newtown Fest is gone. Groove in the Mood,
Splendor,
gone.
watch out, man. Yeah.
Splendor, you're next.
We're trying
Yeah.
to tell them they won't have us, but
Yeah.
when we do play, we keep
Yeah.
them alive.
Yeah. So if you want to survive, you know who to call.
Book your favourite band.
But can we delve a little bit more into the earlier stages of Dan Hume, because we feel like a lot of our audience base want to know, where did this guy come from? How did he become who he is?
Well, basically, I'll tell you what was going on with me around then. I was in a band with my brothers, and we were still going at that point, Evermore. And what had happened? Basically, throughout that time, I had started just recording songs, writing songs, and then I think I sort of subconsciously much preferred the studio.
Writing,
That's the one.
writing songs all fucking day. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, I just had basically realized that I wasn't. I don't know whether it was subconsciously I knew that I didn't want to do that forever, and I just wanted to make more music. And then, so I just had, in the background, I had just started recording people's demos and writing my friends' demos. And then just people would sort of, what's the word? I got a lot out of it, just enjoyment out of it. And I was just kind of doing it almost for free. And then some of them people would put it out. And I'd sort of be like, oh, you should get someone to fix for this recording. You should get someone to re-record it. And then a lot of the times they wouldn't. And so I sort of thought, oh, okay, maybe I should try and do a bit more of this. And then, so I was just keeping an eye out for the music that I thought was good. And then it just, if it lined up, I think I was, what's the word? I didn't have my own studio all ready to go all the time. I had a studio with my brothers, but we were quite busy. So it was just whether everything lined up. But I don't think I'd made a couple of albums before then. I think I'd maybe done a couple of albums and a couple of EPs. So
What was the
still early
actual
and,
first song that you ever produced
outside of the band?
outside of Evermore? Yeah.
It was the song. It was the song called. It was a friend of mine, Lisa Mitchell, who lived in our house, in our spare room. I was doing her demos for ages, and so that was the first time that the label just kept on releasing her demos and not paying me.
Sounds about right.
I was
All
like,
right. What was the label?
no, which is fine.
We'll have to name and shame on here.
No. It was basically, and so the first song of mine that came out that I produced was, I think, a song called Neapolitan Dreams by Lisa Mitchell, which is it's a great little song. An old school, Triple J heads will know it.
Loves an ice cream
it's
scoop.
Very folky. very folky, twee. Great song. Her voice is great. But I didn't even do that at the studio. I just did that in my bedroom with like, I had one kick drum and one snare drum and one microphone, the whole song. It's just one Studio Projects, like $250 microphone and an Inbox One for all the nerds out there. And yeah, I just recorded like that, and it was super rough and ready. And then we ended up doing a few more songs just in my house there. And then there was a song we did. Then I ended up doing a lot of her first album with like Coin Laundry and all that kind of stuff. So that was kind of what got kicked off. And then I was also working with Matt Corby, who, yeah, that's the one. He still remembers it. And so sort of, basically, I don't know. I think I met Corby through Lisa, because Lisa had come through the Australian Idol thing and survived. And then so Corby sort of was like, how do I survive this hell?
He was a lucky fella, hey. Like, everybody not only forgot that he was on Australian Idol, but that he was the loser as well. And he pulled it off. And here he is.
I think it's better to lose.
Because then
you don't. Winning that is...
Yeah.
Winning that would be like true hell.
Fuck.
Yeah.
So is it better that Taras lost Big Brother as well? Then as well, do you think?
No, because he was going to get 250 grand, wasn't he?
Don't you get a few grand when you win Australian Idol as well?
No, you don't. Actually, you know what? I think probably
it's a loan from the
no.
label
You get forced
that
to
you
be
have to pay
signed.
back.
You get no. You get forced to be signed to a certain record label that might not have your best intentions.
Lucky.
Yeah.
You would have probably actually been forced to record an album full of songs you didn't write that had already been sort of pre-organized with these like old, like it was very antiquated. I think a lot of people would admit back in the day it was, and both of those people were 16 when they were on the show, and so I started in the band. You know, we started putting out songs when I was 15, so I was very sort of like, what's the word? Understanding that when you're young, you got no idea what's going on.
You were savvy to the industry at a young age.
More that I think when someone was young and said, "Hey, I don't want to do this. This is lame," I was like, "Yeah, I remember that feeling," you know. And like, I think people maybe there's a tendency to not take some young people super seriously. And when they say, "Hey, I want to write up my own songs," back in the day, people would be like, "Oh no, you got to work with this guy. Got to work with this guy." Even when we were signed, we were told that we had to work with these American producers and we had to do co-writes with these American songwriters and stuff. And we just wouldn't do it. And sometimes we'd turn up to these sessions and just intentionally kind of just be like, "This isn't going to happen."
Are you still friends with Pink?
Am I still friends with Pink?
Yeah, she's in town at the
Alicia?
moment. Oh, actually, fuck, you're in Cardiff. You're not even here. She's Alicia she's in town. Your old friend Pink, who used to tour around with.
My old friend Pink.
She got barred from the Manly shed.
She is actually.
I heard about that.
Yeah, she didn't have her ID.
I'm getting sidetracked, but I think I don't know what was going on. I just wanted to make as much music as possible, and I had tons of energy, and I just wanted to. You know, I had these, you know, quote unquote industry connections and stuff, but I didn't care about any of that stuff. I wanted to find cool young bands and like meet people out and like actually make music that I thought was cool and good. And then just it happened in that period of time, and I was just going to heaps of shows. I just happened to stumble upon you guys, yeah, and then I remember thinking. I remember even after the show, I tried to find you online, and then I was really confused because half the things online just said, no, it was like half of them had the STIFI thing going on. I was like, is this the same band? What's going on? They look the same. And then these recordings were just like sounded kind of different to what I remembered.
That's you being nice. They probably sounded like absolute balls. But from my recollection,
I even remember
Neil, our manager at the time, Neil, he gave me a call and said, "Hey, there's this producer who wants to work with you guys." And I was like, "No, we don't work with producers. We don't use click track. We record live to tape." I was like really unapologetically romantic, but also very stupid.
We were not good enough. We did not
to
warrant
be
that
throwing that kind of shit around the fucking room.
We need everything recorded to tape live.
Yeah. But then, credit to Neil. He was like, "Man, can you just send me 2 of the tracks you've been working on for Dan to have a play around with?" And then I was still being a dick, and I sent you Caress Your Soul and Clouds and Cream. And I can still remember the reason behind sending you those 2 tracks was because they were the ones that we were feeling the least confident about on the entire record. And then I can, to this day, remember very vividly Neil saying, "Hey, he sent a mix back, you better come over." And I left my parents' place in Stanmore and I walked up to Neil's place in Petersham, and he played Caress and Clouds back to back, like the mixes. And I was like, absolutely. Were you there as well?
I thought we were in Tarago.
Maybe that's when you heard it. I heard it at Neil's place. Maybe it was Beaker. So it wasn't that vivid. But I was
Like it was yesterday.
but I was blown away. I really was blown away to the point where I was like, "Holy shit, is that even us? Like, can we sound like that? Can we sound that good?" And then I went from one mentality to the next very quickly. Of it's not an EP, it's an album, and we need this guy to do the album, whatever it takes. So
Please,
thanks.
can I have
Yeah,
some
I
more?
remember that.
So thank you, Dan. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I remember.
No, I love
that-
hearing about that.
Yeah, no, sorry. I was just going to say, that was kind of the song that really elevated us to being played on the radio. Like, it went high rotation on Triple J. And I just remember that being a real, monumental moment for the band that kind of, kept setting us off. But yeah, I think it's also
What
the
it also
brilliance-
did, Krabs, I reckon, sorry to cut you off there, was that it kind of, Dan's mixes and production kind of gave us a level that we had to, in the live room, attempt to sound as good at. It's kind of set the bar as to how good we could be in the live room. Did we ever get to that point in the bar? We'll leave that up to the people to decide.
Yes.
Well, that's also,
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't mentioned your actual drum production as well, and you obviously in Evermore, being a drummer as well and singer, but also, yeah, I think at the time, Beaker was had the least experience musically, you would say, and I think there were
Who is
moments
John
where
Lemon? I like
where-
strawberries.
You as a producer and being a drum, aficionado, really lifted that record in a massive way that I don't think could have happened if we didn't have someone skilled in that area. You can comment or you can...
Well, we
I love
had-
hearing
you can-
about.
We had Dylan Adams, who was drummer as well.
No,
yeah,
I-
true.
But Dan, you bring in a different.
Well, the thing is, I love hearing about that because I think it probably in the grand scheme of the career, those first few tracks and those first 4 demos you actually sent me, which was before I got sent those, was probably in the fans. And as an outsider, those particular tracks don't seem really important, they are important, but they're not key moments. But I think in the inception of what you guys could be, I remember that being a really key moment. And I remember being really unsure of what you would think of what I was doing because I really liked it. I really liked the music and I wanted to take it as far as I could, but there's always a thought that someone won't be into that, or people can be very precious about things and they can be very especially I don't know. I've as many times as it's worked as many times as it hasn't, and that but I really wanted you to like it. But we had no personal. I think we'd maybe only met once at that point. So I remember thinking, geez, they might hate this. But I like it.
Yeah, I think you dropped into Annandale one afternoon or something. That's about it.
And we loaded him up with about 20 bloody Marys and sent him off sideways to go deliver a speech at the APRA Awards
Yeah, that's right.
at 10 in the morning.
I think well, yeah. So I will go with the quick the chronology of how I think it went down is that I think it was I said hi to Neil at the gig, wrote down my email address, and then months went by, didn't hear anything. At least 2 or 3 months in my memory. And then I get this call or an email, and he said, I'm going to send you some demos. And then there was a really rough demo of like 3 or 4 songs, which included Caress and it included Clouds and Cream. And then I think it might have included what I think was called Sex at the time, or still called that, and then maybe one more. And I remember listening to these demos over and over, and in my house in Fitzroy, Melbourne. And even then I was still like, I think this is really good, but I can't quite work out what it is yet. And then I remember I thought it was really good. And then I played it to a few people, and then sort of as many people that liked it didn't get it. You know what I mean? I was sort of like, still people like, what is this? But then I noticed that people that weren't trying to be smart about it and like they were like, it just sounds good. It just sounds good. And like, yeah. And then so when he sent me the demos, then he sent me the mixes of these stems, and I just went to town on them. And I think I just wanted to sound like, as like, what's the word? Just as colorful and fat and crazy as possible. I just thought everything should be extreme. Like the guitars should be extreme, the drums should be extreme, the vocals should be extreme. And I don't think that's the answer to everything, but I think that when everything is coming from all these different influences, that just mash it, like a big mashup, you know, that then it kind of all glues together. That was my thought with it. And but yeah, I remember hearing the fact that you liked it. I was like, oh, that's such a relief, because I thought that it might, I don't know. And then you all liked it, and I was like, okay, cool, this is gonna be fun.
I remember the How to Fly first mix I think you sent, which is funny how you were saying everything needed to be extreme. And I just remember, do you remember that one? The very first one that Dan sent through? It was
phaser or through the whole thing?
Phaser through the whole thing. And I was like, whoa.
It was smoking cones.
Yeah.
Oh, this is great.
I'm glad.
This is great.
I'm glad
I
you
don't
brought this
remember.
up, because I wanted to ask Dan about this, because we were at Linear Studios still tracking.
Yeah.
I don't think it was How to Fly. I'm pretty sure it was Laika, but maybe it was How to Fly.
It's How to Fly.
Was How to Fly? But yeah, I remember he sent through 3 good mixes, and the 4th one, he'd put an extreme phaser. A phaser is like a sound going over the master.
Oh, I love this.
And then
I want to hear the bad stories. This is great.
I called you and said, Dan, what the fuck is this?
Is this something?
And then you said something along the lines of like, yeah, cool. I was just making sure you were listening.
Yeah,
And
that was
now-
a test. That was a test.
At the time, I was like, he's a genius. But now I'm like, what a dickhead.
I think you were just like had a late night mix.
You know what?
You were just grilled.
I remember that. I love this, because this is so true, because it's not always, we don't always get it right the first time. I think in hindsight, I think as many times as like we've had so many good collaborations together, but it hasn't always been first time nailed it easy. I don't remember the phaser version of. I've got all the hard drives here. I should track that down.
Yeah, I'm
it
hoping
exists.
you've got it. Yeah, I really hope you've got it.
I'd have it too in the email as well somewhere. Yeah.
Okay. I have no idea the context of that. I don't remember it. But the fact that I said, I was just testing if you're listening, that is, a funny but dickheady thing to say. But I remember there was a point on the first record where I didn't know what the edge was. Like, I was like, I want to push everything so hard, but I don't know what the end point is. Like, how freaky can this get? And so probably, I guess, I put phaser across the whole song, and then you said, oh, this sucks. And I went, okay, cool, there's the edge.
Yeah.
Fucking edge.
There's the point where we stop. Because at the time, I think a lot of people's music, you can't throw crazy delays and crazy reverbs on the guitars and the vocals, and you can't put like a tap delay on the snare drum and make the kick fat and make the bass fat. If you do all that, it just sounds insane. But for some reason, with your music, at that time. Just it always seemed to just come alive. So there was a point where I was like, where does this end? Where am I? How far can I take it? And then so obviously that was a good moment. And there's definitely been times where I haven't nailed it. Happy to admit that. I think it's good to admit that. Fuck yeah. But I'm trying to think, what are the moments on that first record? But yeah, so I was sending you mixes while you were recording. Is that how it went down?
Well, there was the first 4 songs that we've kind of gone through, 3 dope mixes and then the absolute shithouse one. And then I think shortly after that, you told us like, oh, I'd like to finish mixing the record, but I don't want the whole shit show, 19 members of the band and all their mates coming down to your studios, which was the Stable Studios at the time in like countryside Victoria with your 2 brothers.
Yeah, I wish we had done it, but
and then Seamus and I were elected to come down and stay in the bunk bedroom, and I think we just crushed out most of the record for like, I don't know, was it 5 or 6 days or a week?
It was real quick. We had no money.
It was smaller than that, wasn't it?
It was like two days or something.
And I'd never seen anything like the Stable Studios before, like this studio in a converted horses stables in the countryside. And I walked in and you had a coffee machine and all this booze, and you made us a lamb roast.
It was elite.
Like, wow.
It was elite.
Wow.
yeah, I remember the lamb roast.
We've made it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This guy's roasting a lamb.
Yeah, it was good.
We've made it.
This guy's producing a lamb.
Holy shit.
Oh,
Yeah,
Is that mint sauce? Fuck.
But
yeah, the fridge was always stocked of Coronas because we grew up on the road. It was like, unless we had a fridge stocked of Coronas, we felt very uncomfortable.
Do you miss the
back in
road?
day.
Do you miss the
But
road?
no, I remember.
Do you miss the Coronas on
Now?
the road? Yeah.
Well, now we have Corona Zeros, which I guzzle back enthusiastically. No, I don't miss the road. No,
You got out. I do.
I don't think about it. To jump into the now for 2 seconds. Yeah, I think for me, I miss heaps of stuff. I miss living in Australia. I miss seeing you guys. I miss seeing my friends. I miss everything.
Miss
but
you
at the
too.
same time, like everything comes in seasons, and like I did about 10 years on the road with my brothers, and some of the best memories ever. But also, you know, don't know. I don't know if I was still doing it now, would it still be the same as it was then? Probably not. It would be different.
No, you'd be fat
and
like
I
us.
think you just go.
Also, for those who don't know, Dan Hume, along with his 2 older brothers, Pete Hume and John Hume, they grew up in New Zealand and they were homeschooled. And it got to the point where Dan was about 13 years old, the youngest child, and they were sitting around, and then all of a sudden they all stood up and said, "Mum, this minestrone soup fucking sucks. And by the way, boys, we're no longer family, we're a band, and we're called Evermore." And then they started couch surfing around Sydney and then made it to the big time with songs such as It's Too Late and Running.
Well done.
Is that pretty much exactly what happened?
Yeah,
Minestrone and all.
that's pretty accurate. Yeah, minestrone and all.
I do like a good minestrone.
We did couch surf for a long time, and I think often when I'm telling stories, even now, just about I'll be like, "Oh, Coogee," or this person, Potts Point, and all these things. And people are like, "Oh, when did you live in Potts Point?" I was like, "No, we slept on someone's floor there for 6 months, and then we slept on another person's floor." And I didn't think of anything at the time. There was 3 sleeping bags in people's living rooms, and we had these little fold-out mattresses, and like we didn't have a house for about first 2 years maybe of the first band, and we just were always on the road. Harbour Agency just put us on this like. We were just like on the Rolodex of the Harbour Agency. We would just like turn up to the opening of an envelope, basically, play any gig. And that we would just like give us as many gigs as possible because we have nowhere to sleep. And so at least if we play, the the Rob Roy in Melbourne, they'll put us up, or if we play the
Star
all
Casino.
those RSLs, they what's that classic one back in Byron Bay, and the Byron, what's it called, the Byron Hotel,
The Great Northern.
the Great Northern.
Upstairs there.
And Jody
All
will
those-
put you in the bunk beds. Yeah.
We used to, bed bites, bed bugs, and everything.
How old were you at this
Yeah,
point?
so we did that for years.
Dan, how old were you? Like when it all
Probably
started?
back in then. This is before we made it. I think when we started there, I was 14.
14. So were you getting fucked up then as well?
Yeah.
Wow.
I thought you were about to say something else.
Unofficially,
I didn't even have pubes when I was 14. But I was getting fucked up though.
I think we were kind of like, we were of the era where we were kind of raised by, in a way, we learn a lot from like the older like road crew and everything. So there was a lot of VB drinking and there was a lot of like sickie smoking. But I think our manager, Rebecca, had sort of told anyone we worked with, I didn't realize this. She's like, look, they can have some fun, they can party, but if they end up hooked on drugs, I will fucking kill you.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And so we didn't
Yeah.
realize that. But so
When you found that out,
we
did
were
you
really young,
sack
and
her?
so no, I was like, oh, that explains something. No. But it was just old school. It was just pub, shows. It wasn't the big time. It was just it was a different era. It was just, you're playing these shows, you're packing the van, you're playing these shows to either, a couple hundred people, but sometimes just to like 50 people or sometimes 20 people. And you get good and you create, a lot of memories, but you also get good as a band, you get good at playing, you just get good at handling everything. And it's a fun little lifestyle. You become like this sort of like, you feel like you're sort of a band of, like you run like carnies or something. Sort of.
It
Travellers.
sounded pretty like a bunch of circus boys with the sleeping bags in the living room. What's that? Oh, that's the Humes. The three Hume brother. Kind of like in the van.
We were. I think it's only charming because we were so young. We're all under 18, and so there's a bit of charm to it. But yeah, as soon as we.
Where did all the money go? Like, was it one of those things where it's like you're 14, so you can't like, you can have a couple of BBs and a durry, but you can't like, you're not getting paid.
Oh no! We would make money just purely on merch, but then like merch would just fill the van gas.
'Cause
Like
if I'm
literally, we would
14
walk around
making
with like.
Gig money, surely you're just like, what did you spend it on? Did you get more music gear or like?
No, there's no money back then.
There's no money.
We didn't
back
make
then.
money for years either.
I just thought,
When did you first get paid?
No, I don't.
Well, our biggest paid
not
show was
until, like-
wasn't it that Backpackers in Central? And they thought we were a Sticky Fingers cover band. We got like $2,000.
Yeah.
That's right.
I think that was our highest paid show for like the first 2 to 3 years of being a band. But it sounds like you were still getting some, decent enough.
I don't
coin.
know exactly the timeline of it.
Yeah, okay.
No, not for the first few
Yeah.
years. But I think there's a tendency I think there's a tendency just it all just goes back into the the road. I don't think that at any point. I mean, if you give a young musician too much money, they'll probably just quit the band. So, but yeah, my memory of it. Was, it was very play the show, go and sell some CDs, use that money to buy, lunch and gas money, and then obviously at some point it really clicked over it, but it's so gradual.
Just a
But I
spot of
remember, as soon as
lunch,
you start
was it?
selling out venues. Yeah, but at some point you start selling out venues, and then you stop seeing the money. Because I used to literally, with the merch stand, walk back into the band room with like a little plastic bag or a little Ziploc full of, $100 or whatever it was. And then, you'd pour that into a big bag, which was like, you'd be paying for the gas with the $2 coins and everything. People think you like robbed a pokie machine. But anyway.
Yeah.
Okay,
But yeah,
so
so
you
that was my
you and your two bros, you ran away from home, and then you couch surfed your way to stardom, and then as it happens, you share the van for too long, you end up hating each other, especially when you're already blood brothers, right? So then, did you decide to become a producer because you wanted to leave the band, or did you leave the band because you wanted to be a producer? That's the same thing, isn't it?
It's the same thing, brother.
No, I don't think. I think they're two separate timelines, and I think that as I think at the time, I think we had so many good memories and I think the majority of the time we got along really well. I think after 10 years, like I think the familiarity of the band really got to a point where it lost a bit of its charm, and I think that it might have seemed really deep at the time for these reasons and these reasons, but I think it really was just we'd just been doing it a long time and we just grew up together and we homeschooled together and we just needed a break from each other. But and there's we're brothers again now and it's all happy days, so that's great. All love there now. But I don't think me producing was a way out or anything like that, because I think I was already producing for a couple of years before I left. I think I was still in the band when we were doing the first record, maybe even the second one. I can't remember. But I think I would have, if I didn't do production, I would have done something else. I think it just was a separate timeline.
Can I ask you a question, Dan? Because I was chatting to Isaac last week, and he was talking about the Grove Studios up in the Central Coast and how the Grove Studios has almost become like this old relic, this almost like museum or this time warp back into a time in Australia where record labels and artists actually had money, and there were places like this, and there was more of a culture of like you need to go to the Grove, or you need to go to 301, or you need to go to Rocking Horse, or you need to go to, or what's it, that big hamburger studio, Big Jesus Burger, like you need to go to this big studio to make the big record with the big money to make the big money. But now there's been this massive culture shift where you got artists like, say, Little Peep, for instance, where all of his first recordings, which are like, triple diamond, platinum dog records, were just made by himself on GarageBand with just like, a microphone inbuilt into the laptop. So in a sense, I've already kind of answered my own question already. But what I kind of wanted to ask you was, like, as a producer starting out, for any producers starting out or who are wanting to start out listening, like what's really important in the beginning and what's not?
Well, I think that's a really cool point, because I think we always, well, I know I do, and there's a tendency to sort of rose tint every era gone by, because we focus on the good things. It's like even the fact that my memory of the mixing the first record was, everything was great, and then you were like, actually some of those mixes sucked, and I was like, oh, that's right, yeah, true. And I think it's funny because when we started out as this young band, we didn't like that big studio thing, because it was actually very gate-kept, and it was very like, they would tell you that there's only one way to do everything, and they would sort of, in New Zealand, we went to some big studios a couple of times, and like, I would turn up like super young, hadn't recorded hadn't recorded in a studio before, and they were really unfriendly about it, and like would sort of be like, how do you want this recorded? And I'd be like, oh, just however you want to do it, like let's just jump into it. And they would be like, oh, I don't know, they're all like high and mighty about it, and I was just like, this is stupid. And then we would go, hey, we've got these little demos that we made on, like Cool Edit Pro, and they actually sound kind of good, and we got signed from it, so can we listen to them? And they would be like, oh, what microphone did you use on that? And we'd be like, oh, this little $100 thing. And it was all very sort of like
wank.
Yeah.
What's the word? Wanky. And we were like, fuck these guys. And we kind of built our studio from the ground up of just everything that we thought we needed. And John my brother, was like super ahead of his time and would like we were on, Pro Tools 5.1, I think it was called. And he taught himself that, and he taught himself, we got these multi-track recorders, all these preamps, and it was sort of like coming from the world of bedroom studios, but then like building out onto it. And he got really good, and he was, even though technically there's other producers on our first records, like 95% of what people hear, came from, I think, John's like audio perspective. And he, I learned a lot from him, and we came from this sort of bedroom perspective. But then also you get to a point where you're like, oh, we actually want, more from this, and we want more from this, and you have limitations, and so you want bigger and bigger studios just to get more out of it. But there is something super great about the liberation you have from just a home studio and a bedroom studio. But then there is also a point where that becomes like a stopping point and a sort of like you might get a roadblock because it has a tendency to sort of push you in a certain direction. And I think now that there's a huge exposure of home studios, which are great, and I think people think, well, what I need now is a big studio, and I think that an element of that is true, but I think sometimes the missing piece is actually just playing together as a band, even in a rehearsal space, and like jamming things out. And I think that you're not actually going to get that straight away in a big studio. And I think that every way of writing and recording and producing, either on one microphone in a bedroom or in a big studio, has its positives and negatives. And you just got to like, what's the word? Find the energy and make sure that you're getting the most out of it and like sort of not being controlled by that environment. But a big studio isn't going to make your song better unless you're already ready and you're already rehearsed and you already know what you want and going in and like, and working with someone who's willing to sort of make it work. I'm not sure exactly the point I'm making, but it's funny that now people think of me as people think of me as like a big studio guy now, and they're like, oh yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm still like, a part of me is still like a bedroom producer.
You've become the wanker that you were talking about before.
Yeah, I have, totally. And I'm like, oh, what spring reverb is that? What compressor was used on that? And that, which is terrible. And I'm sorry about that. But
it's all right.
I try and keep a bit of that bedroom perspective and that home recording perspective because, and if someone comes in and just on a handheld mic sings a good vocal, that's going to be the best vocal we have. And I think that it's far more about the performance and the energy of the recording than it is about how it was recorded. But, and so I'm not sure what Isaac was saying. And I love big studios and I love the heritage of it. But I also think that it's not the answer to everything. And there's a good reason that a lot of the music we hear on the radio, which is from, indie to alternative to pop or whatever, a lot of that music is made in quite small studios.
Yeah, cool. I was going to actually ask you, because you didn't go to school or anything, and you were saying that John like taught himself, right? Like, not obviously homeschool, I was just in like music college or whatever to learn how to like produce and record. So how did you then like navigate your way around an actual studio? Because there's lots of spaghetti, lots of things.
Lots of spaghetti.
How do you go from the bedroom to then like going and walking around and talking to these wankers and being like, I feel confident knowing what to do?
I think two-parted question. How did John do it? I don't know, because he really did. He used to read a lot of like home recording magazines and like, this is pre-internet really. So home recording magazines, and I guess doing some research. But John was like kind of crazy gifted with electronics also, when he would like make his own guitar pedals and make his own guitar amps and like reverb cabinets. This is when he was like 13, 14. He taught me guitar when I was probably about 11. And yeah, he's just kind of one of those guys. Like he would like take an old record player amplifier and turn it into like a distortion pedal and stuff like that. And I think there's a bit of like what we would call Kiwi ingenuity, which was that you didn't have any other option. There was no music store in our town. You couldn't just go and buy like a Big Muff or whatever. And we couldn't afford that. We had one Squier Stratocaster. And he just sort of had a way with electronics. And then from that, I think through home recording magazines, he taught his way. And then how did I learn big studio stuff? I think probably just being young enough to walk into every room and be like, I don't know what this does, what does it do, and point at things and ask and be... I think the first thing for anyone to is never pretend that you know what you're doing. Just ask someone who does and like try and learn from them at the time. Because there's nothing wrong with not knowing. I don't expect everyone to know everything. And you can learn... And yeah, those first few studio experiences we had weren't good in New Zealand. I don't know whether that was just a one-off experience, but years later, working with some other engineers in actually America, we had an engineer, a guy mixed our first record, John Alasia, and then another guy, Barrett Jones, in Seattle. They were super friendly about it, and you'd ask them what it does, and they'd explain it to you, and you'd try and get your head around it, and just over the years. And I even think when we worked on the second LP with Nicholas in Rocking Horse.
Shout out to Nick Wilson.
You always got something to learn from everyone. You got, he always says that he appreciates it when I walked into his room. I said, you know this room really, really well. I want to hear all the secrets of the room. Like, show me your favorite mic positions. Show me your favorite microphones to put on everything. And he was like, yeah, I appreciate you didn't walk in and sort of just do your way. It's like, yeah, because
I remember that happening.
The lay of the land. Yeah. And everybody knows you got something to learn from everyone. I'm still learning stuff from people all the time.
There's probably a bit of an element as well of as you progress, you just also, you want certain things and you're like, oh, I really want this sound, or I really want to achieve this. How do I do it? Then you ask those questions, then you find those answers. And as you go on, you're asking for more and you're looking for more.
Yeah.
And so when a question pops up, like, oh, I really want to get like a certain tone, or maybe I can double it with an organ. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Or the compression. Like, those kind of, you ask those questions and then you find answers for them and you ask people.
Well, things become slowly less of a mystery, but then also your perspective is constantly widening. And so the mystery continues. If anything, there's a saying I know with me and a lot of my friends who are mixers, is that every year we definitely get better, but we feel like we're getting worse because our perspective is constantly growing.
The more you know, the less you know. The classic.
Yeah. And it's just because your expectations of yourself is constantly rising. And then it's like when the first few years of mixing, you'd be like, oh, I've sorted the low end out. And it's like, then you meet someone who's been doing it for like 30 years and they're still like, the secrets of the low end. Because it never ends. Like, there's always more to learn. But yeah, I think, and then you're sometimes you have to throw things at the wall, but you get more and more focused on exactly what you want, and you get the mysteries. You work something out, or you learn a trick from someone, and then it's just one more thing that you've got in your memory bank, but you try and just keep all that information as you go. But there's also something really fun about just throwing everything at the wall and seeing what works, and then capturing the energy of the room and just not getting too stuck up on, but it's not mic'd perfectly correctly and all those things.
Yeah. I wanted to actually talk a bit more
I feel
about...
like I'm rambling.
Yeah, it's your show. It's the whole point.
Let's focus on this LP because I think I want to know more about the story of how it all came together, because I remember it was an EP when we first met.
Yeah.
And then when did it become an album?
I remember it was some kind of overnight decision on a bender involving, you meeting all the rest of the band for the first time, and we were playing some kind of weird kind of like it was like this Melbourne upstairs warehouse show, and Dizza was shit-faced and he kept falling off the stage, and for some reason you and Chris Lilly sort of became our kind of like stage techs, like trying to untangle all the cables and the stands, and then we were all doing lines off a fucking dumpster in the back alley, and I had this disposable camera, and I like took this photo of you and Chris Lee doing a line off this dumpster, and then Chris turns and he's like, "Get rid of that right now." I can't, man. It's film. Like, but I didn't dog him.
Oh God.
Am I dogging him now?
I don't know. No, you're allowed to talk about it.
Uh,
It may or may not have happened, I guess.
yeah, allegedly.
Tall stories.
Yeah. Also, your memory. That's not at all how it went down, but your memory's all rubbish up. But
There you go.
no, there was a show in Melbourne upstairs, and that was like, I remember being really excited to see it, and then I remember halfway through the show, I was like, this is like borderline not working. Like, someone kept unplugging like the lead vocal, and then it was just. I think I ended up being a stage tech, and then I think I brought some friends, and they were like, "What the fuck is going on?" I was like, "Yeah, trust me, they're good."
Yeah, they weren't there when we walked off stage. We're fucking gone, bro.
But no, what I want to know is that, there was obviously these 4 or 5 strong songs, and then by the time you come down to Melbourne to work on the rest of it, suddenly there was these songs like These Girls, there was Australia Street, there was Laika, there was all these songs that just, you're like, oh, we got some extra songs, but like, where did you pull these songs from? I actually don't know. And like most people, when they say I've got extra songs lying around, they kind of just not that good extra songs lying around. And then you guys were like, oh, I've got some extra songs lying around. They're really great killer tunes. Where did you pull them from? And had they always been there? Or did you write them right before you recorded them? Or how did it all go down?
This is from a time that I actually really miss a lot. But yeah, nostalgia's a dangerous drug, of course. But so correct me if I'm wrong, fellas. But we didn't have access to any studios. There wasn't really, unless you were one of the freaky Dan Hume brothers, if you're like time traveling studio using your Kiwi ingenuity. Us on the other hand, we didn't really have like access to record or flesh out demos. But I've just got memories of us just sitting in backyards and parks with pen and paper, this old school writing songs in that kind of way that you said, where you're sort of like jamming it out kind of thing, and then bringing it to a studio when we had enough coin afterwards. How we got them to you in a timely fashion, I think we were just that pumped off hearing Caressing Clouds of Cream, where it was kind of like, I don't know, it kind of feels like whatever we play is going to make sound pretty good. We've got some turds and he's going to polish it really nicely.
Yeah, I feel like we got, you gave us Caress and Clouds, and we're like, shit, this is good. While we've got this guy, let's do it. Let's make an album. Let's make an album quick. And we kind of dug into the archives, and so I think these girls have been floating around since the Dono tour. And then I don't think it was. I think there was a bunch of songs that weren't fully realized yet, but they were very close. And there were songs that still needed to have that, like Australia Street, for instance. We had a really great chorus. I mean, a really great verse, and then the chorus kind of was for a different song, and it kind of just slapped. Like there was definitely a bit of slapping together pretty quick, but I guess we didn't realize we were ready for an album at the time. And then when we decided we were doing an album, like, actually, you know what, we have an album here. We actually do have it all here, and it was more about picking what was going to be.
There was Australia Street came as well, like later, didn't it?
Yeah,
that was
How to Fly was already there.
I remember that was
one of the last ones, Australia Street.
Yeah.
And then there was, Sex and Freddie Krabs were like, I think you were sort of pushing. I had like little.
Is Freddie Krabs on this
Boppa.
album?
Yeah.
I had.
Yeah, because Australia Street and Freddie Krabs used to be the same song.
That's right.
It used to
Here we
go.
go.
It used to go into, yeah, I'm found lost without a trace, and it's easy behind a loveless face, into 'cause I'm hot chewing. And it was much slower, like, 'cause I'm chewing off your face.
Yeah, right.
It was actually pretty sick. We probably should have left it like that.
I think it worked out all right.
Freddie Krabs was like a song that was just an intro, and we just played it at like instrumental.
Okay, so yeah, it's coming back to me a bit more now.
And then that was originally, we were going to call it Loveless Face because we played as an instrumental. We always called it Freddie Krabs. And then, Dizzy was just like, it's going to be staying as Freddie Krabs.
Because
But that was like, I remember you coming up at a party at Croydon Park at the old house.
Yeah.
And you came up with the chorus and the verse, and you were just, I think it was like a horror, was it like a Halloween costume?
No, because I already had the...
You were just like on one, but you were just like yelling in my ear, and I just remember hearing like, that's it. That's it, we got it.
Yeah, because I kind of already had this Loveless Face, aka Freddie Krabs idea. But then Dizza had this, it was a real sunny day. And then I was like, I think I've got a good chorus for that. And so we threw the old Freddie Krabs chorus into Australia Street. That became Australia Street.
Yeah.
And then I think
was that the first mashup?
That was the first mash. That was the first zombification of the Sticky archives. But then afterwards, Krabs was a bit like, what about the Freddie Krabs song? But then Diz the legend, he did the return and he was like, I've got a chorus for you too, G. And he was like, to all the women that keep us afloat.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck, where'd you pull that from? That is sick.
Yeah.
I feel like during all this time, you moved out to Croydon Park with the boys.
With Beaks and the Cribbler, Dizza, yeah.
Yeah, and you were like, come with us. I was like, fuck that is far away, which I should have done because I was just on the couch the whole time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But when we were out there, the garage, which we like fired up the old garage out there and had like, I don't think we were writing on the computer out there yet. Were we? Were we demoing out there?
Yes.
We were demoing at that time as well.
Yes.
Because I always relate that
Logic.
to demoing
Land of Pleasure.
Land of Pleasure, but we actually did that. We did a lot of Crest out there as well.
Oh, no, sorry. No, sorry. I thought, no, we weren't doing Crest out there.
I remember that as
No.
more
We weren't, but
LOP.
Yeah, it was LOP, but we were out there because I remember writing Freddie Krabs in the garage there.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. It was a transition.
But we weren't writing out there. We weren't on the computer out there. We were just jamming out there. So because we were still just jamming songs, and that's what we were writing back then.
I put the computer out there. That's right, because I edited the Freddie Krabs clip out there. So there was a computer.
Because realistically, also it was all pretty quick.
But it was more of an office.
Once we
computer.
did Caress, it was all pretty quick back then. We got back and we were writing Land of Pleasure straight away anyway. So it was all pretty. we used to work pretty hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I think that's what I love hearing about that is just the energy levels of projects and like of youth in a way as well. That it's funny when you're focused, like things can happen so quickly. And I think there's for some reason now we have all the tools in the world, but everything seems to take forever these days. I don't know whether that's just my perspective, but I think a lot of people feel that. But I think it's crazy when you actually you can write a bunch of songs in a couple of days, you know.
I'd actually like to ask you, Dan. Sorry to cut in there, but I'm just sort of trying to think about what some fans of yours and some fans of Sticky or haters of Sticky might like to have the answers to. And I'd like to ask too. I will give you an opportunity to say some nice things about us too. But the first question I'd like to start off with is, over the years, what's your most hated thing about working with us? You can say as many as you want, or as little.
There's been some moments.
Let me try and be really honest in this answer.
Like a collective hate as well.
I think the only thing
Save your individual hate.
No, I think I think the only thing that this might seem like I'm being like tricky, but I think the only thing that I've found difficult is that sometimes I know how to help, and sometimes I can be helpful. But then sometimes I don't know how to help.
I somehow feel like you're not talking about music right now.
Yeah, both. But I think it's like, and then but it's just like, and I think the hardest times have not been in the studio, have just been like seeing everything that you're going through and not really knowing how I can help. So I think it might seem like I'm being like overly schmucky there, but I think that's been the hardest because I feel like whenever we've been pretty focused in the studio and that it's been, actually I wouldn't say it's been drama free, but kind of like I feel like there's a community that we all want the same thing and are willing to work really hard to get there. But I mean, there's definitely been times. Probably the hardest memories for me was probably the last like couple of weeks of Thailand.
Recording Westway, yeah.
When there's on Westway where I had to get the low point was when, remember when it'd be late at night, it'd be like 4 a.m, and we'd been working so hard, and then like at 4 a.m, Dizzy would turn up the stereo like to like 100%. Do you remember this?
Yeah, he had that massive
Which was,
boom
like,
box that
right
had like the neon light speakers.
Yeah, he had like he had like, you know, in Breaking Bad when he buys the big stereo, he had that thing downstairs, and it was right underneath my room. It was right underneath my room. You guys have given me a nice room, which I appreciate, but it was like, and so I'd just be like so tired, and then he'd play it, and it was like vibrating my entire room, and I was like, it's lost any humor. And I'd go down there in my
Bananas in
underpants,
pajamas.
be like, dude, shut it. Yeah, I'd be like, shut up, go to sleep. Like, you can hang out, but like, just turn this music off.
Well, I guess Dizzy could
And
say
then-
that at the time he didn't know how to help you either, you know?
Yeah. Anyway, he'd be like, yeah, sure, man. And then I'd be like, cool. And then like, I'd just fall asleep 20 minutes later. He'd turn it up again and be like, I guess he forgot. And then it got to a point where I went down there and took apart the stereo and took the power supply to both the speakers. Hid them.
I mean, that was
Eventually, after a few nights, but then there was, and I think, you know, and then I think there was a point where, you know, there was a couple points in Thailand where I was like, this is starting to get like kind of out of control.
Thailand was out of control.
But you know what?
You sent us away. You sent me
there was a
and
week where
Crabs.
you guys left.
Yeah, you said you're
It
like
was
boys.
just
You're like boys.
Paddy,
Fuck off.
Desert and me, and we tried to do all the vocals, and it was just I can't even remember. Somehow, purely just with like determination, we got it across the line. But it was just like nobody could remember any melodies or lyrics, and I'd either have like a hyperactive Dizzer and then a sleepy Paddy, or a hyperactive Paddy and then a sleepy Dizzer.
there was no.
And I'm being very nice with those words.
Very nice.
Yeah, I mean, that was, as Seamus said, that was like a real mad little escape for us because we didn't have to be there for any of that.
It wasn't an escape per se. We got sent away. I remember you're like, you boys need to piss off because I can't do this with all of you.
The thing is
here.
there was also, it's always a double-edged sword because also there's mad great memories in the Thailand trip. I think that I really always want you guys to get, you know, I'm always there for a good time, but I always want anybody I work with, like at the end of it, to have what they want from it. Like I take that really seriously. I'd hate to sort of go and make something and have all these great memories and then be like, oh, I listened back to it. No, we didn't get anything done or whatever. It's like, I think the memories are better when you actually get what you want out of it.
Yeah, and you said something really wise when
so-
we first arrived there, where you kind of called a little family meeting by the pool, and this is just after we'd realized that we'd checked into this villa that had a built-in hotel as well as studio with the engineer, and then we also had, there was like a kitchen team, and there were also people making our beds. And there was this unlimited bottle of Jack Daniels where it didn't matter how much you drank it, they refilled it. And there was this gigantic garden, and then you called this little family meeting, and you were kind of standing there with a little pudgy gut, and you said, lads, so we've entered heaven, and the thing about heaven is that heaven must be respected, or it's going to turn into hell. And then,
That's really good.
Wise words.
Do you guys remember that? The heaven
I
speech?
don't remember that.
I just thought once you're in heaven, you're
I don't
in.
remember the heaven speech.
No, but you got to respect it.
Oh, right.
Through the pearly gates.
I just told you.
Yeah, I know. You got to respect it. Okay.
I just remember like
That's,
people asking, like, are you guys actually working over there? Everyone was like just looking at updates, what we were doing, and we all were kind of agreed, like, I don't know if we're doing it. But we walked away with an album.
And we also brought our sound guy along with us, our Italian sound guy, Manu, R.I.P. And at the time, he became friends later. At the time, he hated him so much because he was just hanging by the pool, just getting absolutely pissed. And he'd just waltz into the studio every now and then to be like, hey, Dann, Wolf, can I use your computer charger? My battery is low. He's like, I'm trying to make this fucking shitty album. Fuck off. Hey, Dann, bro, can I use your computer mouse? My trackpad has Jack Daniels inside it. Hey, Dann, bro, can I borrow 500 baht?
Can you get your massage, brother?
I think, I think maybe I should have just embraced the fact that maybe we shouldn't have made an album. But I really wanted to make an album, and it feels like some of my best memories is the music. You know,
It's my favorite
not to be
album.
corny, but like
It's
I
my
love
it's
that.
my favorite Sticky album.
Yeah,
it
like-
really is.
That's crazy. I guess because I grew up in studios and grew up on the road, and we made a lot of music with my brothers. I was like, I think memories are always intrinsically attached to the music you make, and so I think it's like, I just always wanted to make the music, and so when things were going a bit wild, I would sort of, that's all great, but I also want to come away with an album, and maybe I should have just gone, this trip's a write-off. Let's just hang by the pool. And maybe we would have done it another time. But at the time, I was like, we've got to get this done. You probably already had shows. It probably was the only chance to do that album, to be honest. And yeah, it turned out really good. I mean, I think I think we also had done some great. You guys came in quite prepped on a bunch of those songs as well. There was some great writing. I know that, and then we had done some good demos down at in my Melbourne studio.
Wasn't it that for the first
Flight 101.
couple of days of us checking into that joint that you only had like one or two band members show up, and you were kind of asking like,
I'll tell you, this is a fun story. It's the wrong album, but the fun story is that I was so excited about this trip. You know, this is coming off the back of Land of Pleasure, which was just like chaotic, but everything was great. And then I turn up to the airport because we're all flying together. I turn up I must have been the Sydney, International Lounge, and I see Seamus, I see Krabs, I see Beaks, I see Dizza. I'm like, this is great. And then I was like, oh, where's Paddy? And they're like, I don't know. And when there's an international check-in, so we're about to board the flight. So, okay, that's a problem. So Paddy didn't make it. Okay, so one down. And then we go to Bangkok. And then, I don't know, for some reason, half of you just disappear. And I think
Me
I
and
think it was
Dizza.
just you and me, Dan.
No,
Yeah, me and Dizza.
Seamus and Dizza say, hey, we're going to hang in Bangkok and wait for Paddy to fly the next day. And I was like, yeah, fair call.
Bullshit.
And then
Wanted to
I was
say
like,
Bangkok.
so me, Krabs, and Beaks get on this bus to some maxi taxi for hours all the way past Phuket or wherever we end up going. And so it was like, so it went from 5 to 4 to 2 And then I think it ends up, I think spend like 2 nights there, just the 3 of us, or something like that. And then halfway through the second day, Dizza turns up in just like a straight city cab. Like a Bangkok city cab.
To Bang Saray,
And
which is like a
just ring the
5-hour
doorbell.
drive. Yeah.
And I come out and Dizza's like, yo, what's going on? I'm like,
Who's going to
"Yo."
pay for that?
And then he goes, he goes, hey, someone needs to pay this cab. And I was like, and the driver's like, you owe us like 2,000 baht or whatever it
2
was.
million
And I
baht.
was just like, oh God. It was some ridiculous amount of baht. And so the studio legends, they were like, yeah, we'll sort it out. They went and paid the guy cash. And so then we had 3. And then he's like, where's the other guys? And I'm like, I don't know. And so slowly you all started trickling in. And then everyone turned up. And I know that you brought all those white suits, those white robes for everyone.
It got very
And
culty,
boxing
didn't it?
outfits for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
And
did
I
some
think
shop. We
put
did some
those,
shopping
and
in
then I think
Bangkok.
maybe that's what they,
Yeah.
and yeah, and then we just kicked it off.
It felt like we were
And then I
musically
remember the first.
prepared. We weren't quite like
mentally.
prepared somehow. Like maybe we got
Do you
cocky.
remember the first night we went in there? Yeah, I think there was a bit of cockiness going on. The first night we went in there, all the songs that we hadn't properly demoed, I was like, let's just do a jam night where we just run the recording for like all day and play through every song and see, play and just do like rehearsal demos basically. And then it just got wilder and wilder throughout the night.
That's right.
And
Everyone got their
when we
cocks
get
out.
into those. Yeah, and it was our first day working
Scared
with
the
in-house
engineer. Yeah, we terrified him.
5 hours into the session or whatever it was, everyone's in the recording booth, butt naked, and his eyes are just like, he was just like, yeah, sounds good, right? Drums sound good. I think he was just like, what the fuck is going on? And I was like, look, mate, you've just got to go with it. It's going to get weird. But, and to be honest, you guys did stay dressed for the rest of it, mostly. So, but, what song was it? What was that Dizza song that just like the punky one?
It was called TuneBot, and
changed
it
title a
became
bunch of times.
tongue in cheek. Suck it in, tongue in cheek.
Tune butt.
Let's play TuneBot.
It's the only song he suggested for for the set list for 4 years. Like, any songs you guys want to play? TuneBot.
Let's play TuneBot. I'm gonna play TuneBot.
Anything else, brother? TuneBot.
Just TuneBot's good, G.
I think actually some of that song from the demo, like the rehearsal night, is what we kept on that song actually.
Flight 101's a real special one
um,
on that album. That's a good song.
Angel.
Yeah, really good song.
I think, Westway, The Glitter, and the Slums for title track. I reckon that's the most underrated sticky track. To me, that one is magic. Just makes me feel this like crazy
Yeah,
nostalgic rush.
hey, why don't we say?
Yeah.
Let's go back to this first record. What's the underrated track from the first record?
Most
in
underrated
your
track
guys'
on
opinion?
Caress. Well, maybe I'll just like say all the titles: How to Fly, Clouds and Cream, Australia Street, These Girls, Sex, Bootleg Rascal, Caress, Laika, Freddie Krabs, Kiss the Breeze, and Let It All Out.
Let it all out.
No. No way.
No way.
I actually reckon like either
Well, it probably
Laika.
is underrated.
You know Darcy, who Cyclone is named after. He came up to me in the pub and he was like, "Yeah, Pat, yeah, I listened to the record and like, I love you blokes more than anybody else. I love you. Let it all out. It's just shit. It's just shit, you know. You know that, don't you?" Anyways, that was his perspective.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
that is still. I mean, to be fair, that's my least favorite on the album as well. I think.
I like it more now, especially when you listen to it on the wax.
Yeah,
I think it's one of those tracks that we didn't fully understand how to capture what we wanted. We wanted
Yeah,
like
that-
a
yeah, I
barroom
remember that too.
honky tonk kind of thing, and I think we were confused.
I remember
A lot of fans love
supporting-
it. Though, so, no disrespect.
I supported the idea of it. Because I actually think that I thought that it reminded me of an era where the chaos was captured. Whether it was captured or not, I liked what it was attempting to do for sure. I think also as a final track, I think it's a nod to many classic final tracks where it's obviously not meant to be as serious as the rest of it.
Yeah, not take yourself too
I mean,
seriously.
here's a question though. I mean, you mentioned Cyclone, and then you were talking about songs that you used to jam at shows. I remember a song that I was always confused that never made the album, and I don't know if it's on any EPs or anything. Maybe it is on an EP. Do you remember when you used to play a show? I don't know whether it's opening track or closing track. You'd do this like down, 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 and it would go from major to minor.
He's got the marriage. Yeah. The marriage with 2 kids. Goodbye, old friend. You've married a demon. It was a song about like your mate who'd married a succubus and impregnated
did you
her,
ever
so
release
his life
that?
was over. No, we never did.
Fucking
Fucking
intro. Fuck.
To answer the question from before, I think whenever test pressing of this arrived, I had to listen to it on the old player, and the track that really stuck out to me was Laika. I was like, especially the production of it too. It starts with the I feel it, and all of Terrace's oohs, and then the that kind of
Real
like,
slick bass line.
yeah, real slick bass line. The drums just and also just the fact that it's this song about this Russian space dog who like had his friends who were the scientists, and then they chucked him up in the spaceship and just like blasted him into space to die alone. It's a real sad story.
It's a real like ballad of the album as well, like a real fucking heartfelt one, I reckon. That song particularly.
Taras wrote the lyrics for that one, so my man.
Yeah, Taras, he's got to
Shout
get a
out
shout out
Taras.
because Clouds and Cream, his work on Australia Street.
Yeah, those 2 tracks were particularly very Tarasi tracks, though. Clouds and Cream and Laika.
Yeah.
This album's arguably the most overappreciated album, actually. Ooh.
Yeah, it's hard to say anything on this album but underrated.
Yeah.
Because
The people, they love it.
Play Australian straights. The amount of time I've heard that at a gig, just play Australian straight.
It's also like there's a mixed bag of everything, right? And I think I took some of your advice, Dan, where you said, never write the same song twice. And I kind of think about that in the sense of not only this album, but what we've all done, but they all have that in common, wouldn't you say? There's like the vibe of the album is always different. There's always something. The next track's going to sound a little different.
for sure,
I think
that
this one, 100%, is very like each song has a unique vibe.
I think if people think that you guys have a particular sound, I think the sound of that is actually the collection of multitudes of ideas colliding and trying to turn it into something. And they go, oh, it's this bass or it's this guitar. And I think maybe on some surface level it is, but when you actually listen to the song, there's so much variation. And from album to album, song to song, it's all quite different. But I guess it's funny what you said, Seamus, about how it's not underappreciated. But I guess in a way, it's like all great first records, I think it's like it's the first time you do anything, it's like going to have a sort of different feeling. And it's funny that when people ask me about records, people are either very much like focused on everything the new that's coming out, or they're like they heard that album the first album, and their memories are associated with that, and that's the record. I guess that's the sort of two types of listeners. I'm sure you guys noticed that. Is that
Yeah, well, we always get people being like, wouldn't it be cool if you went back to that more kind of reggae sound? And I'm like, well, we're not like 21. When you're 21, 20, you're bulletproof. Your perspective on the world is different, and like writing was different. It's more simplicity to it as well, and like it's more there's innocence with it. And as you get older, you get better, and you don't want to write How to Fly again. We did it. If we wrote, we kept doing that.
Can I ask the origin of how? Can I ask the origin of How to Fly? Because I've never really asked. Because that song on the bonus LP, when people get there, that recording predates. Was that recorded at the Annandale or something, or what's the origin of that recording?
The origin of the song was, before I was talking about how I like Laika as a song, not just for the production, but because it's got like a really nice story to it. How to Fly came about when we were all kind of bendering at the Australia Street house for a couple of days, and then my house was at the bottom of Salisbury Road. So it was just this sort of like downhill kind of run from Australia Street to my place on Lincoln Street. And I was very drunk and I stole this bike that was just kind of on the side of the road. So I didn't steal it. It was just kind of on the side of the road. And then once I started...
commandeered it.
Once I started riding down this hill in like peak hour traffic, I realized that there was no brakes on the bike. And I was shit-faced and I was kind of like weaving through this kind of traffic, and then I started singing, I take the brakes off, and then just sort of had the idea for the first verse, and then I got home and recorded it somehow on something, whatever the technology was at the time, and then wrote the lyrics down and brought it into the garage studio in Beaker's backyard, and then Seamus had that wah part apparently just kind of ready, and then it just gelled very fluidly from there.
She was waiting for you in the garden.
She was.
I got the part.
Yeah, just like that.
Well,
and now you're buying a new bike now.
It sounds so serendipitous, doesn't it? It sounds so like it couldn't have. I mean, that's a great way for a song to,
The song came together in 2 minutes once you brought the lyrics and stuff in. Like I was like, yeah, I got chords right here with the wah, and then I think that song half-hour session in the room. You brought it in, and
it's a very beautiful thing when you're in that kind of flow, especially in your early 20s when you kind of feel that you're onto something and it's kind of going, and you're feeling very romantic about your own life, just day to day, and so you kind of. I think there's probably magic in every day, but I feel like you're definitely in your early 20s, you're very kind of tapped into that magic if you allow yourself to be. And it's nice.
Totally. I think that feeling of finishing a song and feeling like it's coming together how you imagined it is like such a crazy feeling. It's like there's a highness to it, like it's like crazy positive feeling,
and really just believing in your dreams too, and just really feeling that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also, I think when you're young, it's sort of like the naiveness of your mind gives you the confidence to think you can do it because you don't know too much, and you're like, what if I just do this, and then you pull it off because you're not scared of anything. You're not.
Just push the bag. Just push it and to see where it slots or flops.
And but that song's. It's a really good song. And I remember I think maybe you'd sent me that version, or I had heard that version, and I thought it needed a bunch of phaser on it. Apparently, it's a really good song.
Well, that version that's on the bootleg tapes, before we'd met you, or before you'd watched us at that fateful gig, we'd actually already serviced that song to radio, and it got knocked back. But then you produced it, but because we'd already kind of serviced it as a single, we didn't service it again. But we're like, well, we believe in it, so we'll still put it as track one on the record. And now it's like our most our most listened to song ever.
Yeah. What did you do in that intro? What was going on there?
Yeah, does anyone remember what the intro is from?
Yeah,
It's
like,
Seamus's part from the verses. And we're like, let's put it in reverse and let's chuck it in the front.
Oh, so that wasn't in my memory. That came about at some point, but I don't remember whether that was. Did we make that when you guys were in Melbourne with me?
could have done that.
Yeah. No, but we
Yes.
just grabbed the already recorded your part and reversed it because
Yeah.
before that there was this corny intro where it was either you, Krabs, or Taras on the piano. It was like bling, dong, 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 dong,
Yeah.
dong, 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 dong. I took it, and we're like, no, we can't start the record on this honky tonk bullshit.
Well,
we can end it on let it all out with the honky tonk bullshit, but we can't start here.
Well, I wasn't sure that was always going to be the first track of the album. Was it because I thought maybe the intro helped do that, and then maybe
Once
we were
the
thinking
intro
of,
arrived,
maybe there
yeah.
was something else
Yeah.
that we wanted to have as a first track.
Yeah, I think
I don't know.
Freddie Krabs was a contender
Freddie Krabs was a
at
contender.
one stage. Yeah,
Yeah. That's really interesting. No, I think there was a conversation about how do we make this song more like an intro song, and then we messed with that intro thing, which I remember. It's funny to think now that it's so played so many times, and that every time people have to listen to the spaced out intro. But I think that's cool. Like it must obviously like take people into the world.
Yeah, we didn't do the introless version. It's just you have to.
Well, in a way that it's almost like it's like an intro track. It makes more sense as the start of an album to me.
Yeah.
Than it does, on its own. But obviously hasn't held it back. I mean, it's a really good song.
So it strikes me that the Caress record, uniquely, we kind of hadn't quite met yet, and we'd kind of recorded a lot of the songs without you, and then you kind of became the post producer after the fact in Melbourne. But then by the time we were doing Land of Pleasure, we'd figured out that we were the kind of band that was going to really benefit from getting out of town and going away. So we went up to Byron Bay in Rocking Horse for 5 magical weeks and crushed that out there, which we can come back to. And then we went and did Westway in Thailand, trying to recreate how fluid Land of Pleasure went, except it was a bit of a nightmare, but also a nice record, I think. And
Got there in
then
the end.
Yours to Keep, we then went back to Rocking Horse again for a live-in studio experience.
Yeah, we thought we
out of town, and
one
then
more attempt.
and then now we're talking to you over in Cardiff, and from all reports, it sounds like you've purchased some kind of spooky castle, and you are currently turning it into a studio that has a live-in experience. Is this true, or is it facts?
Yeah, well, I just don't know how I ended up in Wales, UK. Honestly, it was never part of the plan. But I think just life has brought me here, and it's really similar to where I came from. Like, strangely, it really reminds me a lot of New Zealand. And I found myself just wanting to create like a sort of musical, like away, somewhere to come away to. And then so basically, this old church building, castle building came up, and I just thought, I was out here because my partner's family's from here, and I thought, why don't I just turn this into a music studio? And then cut to 2 years later, I'm still, it's pretty much almost done, but it's been a wild experience. But I think I'm investing in the concept of future memories, and I think that that the environment does really affect the music you make, musically, and also just the experience of it. And I think to some degree, you don't need to be in a big studio, you don't need to have all these things, but you do need to be away from your distractions, and I think that there's more distractions than ever now. I feel like when I work with people now, I just notice that their minds are like thinking of like 10 things at once, and I don't know whether that's just technology, or I don't know what it is, but I think that I don't think that is great for the musical experience. I think you kind of need to like empty your mind a bit and kind of just go back to when life was simple in a way. So that's what I'm trying to create out here, and it's amazing, it's beautiful, and it's really far away from where I came from. But you know what? You know, life takes you places, and you just gotta go with it. But yeah, hopefully more memories in the future.
And what do you call in the studio?
You know, it's Hymn Studios, HYM.
Ooh.
Like urban hymns, the verve, lad.
Urban hymns, yeah,
Nice.
Welsh hymns. But yeah, I mean then we did the fourth record at Rocking Horse, and then the fifth record that was like didn't we start attempting it? No, that was made all throughout COVID, right?
No, we did a bunch of Rocking Horse again. We did like a week or so, but it was pretty hairy. But we got some good stuff out of it. We did songs on that album that I can't remember.
Lost in the way.
Yeah.
What's that song called? Whatever that one's called.
Look at us. We did about. I think we
It's
did.
called Tune Butt.
But I guess
We did Queen up there.
Just written too many songs.
We did Queen up there and Sidelines, and we did a bunch of the acoustic ones because we were kind of under the impression that we're going to do an acoustic album.
Yeah,
which
it was
turned
going
into-
to be a relaxed acoustic album with Dan.
But then it started bopping a bit more.
Well, yeah, I think, fuck, how to put this? I think we've covered this pretty good, and it's kind of in the book as well. But yeah, from my own personal perspective, which maybe I haven't shared, I kind of didn't want to put Dan through what I knew Lekkerboy was going to be, which was pretty fucked. It was real hard to make that record, and Beans, aka Taras, was the perfect fresh meat to come and sort of slither the bacon, while Dan could fly away to paradise in his spooky castle in Cardiff. And
I think Dan was
Yeah, the
going to.
green
No, I think Dan
paradise.
was actually going to. I think you were going to fly out, but then David didn't allow it.
no, he
No?
was going to stay, but then it was sort of like, you know, where are we actually at? What's kind of going on? And
Is there an album happening?
You know, there was, you know, a certain member who wasn't really in shape to actually be sort of inhabiting a studio such as Rocking Horse or the Grove kind of thing. And so it sort of became this almost like home hospital recording studio experience, didn't it? Which sounds fucked up, but it's true. And but yeah, speaking of COVID, it sort of felt like the blessings of COVID for us was it kind of gave us this sort of 1 to 2 year gap where we didn't have anything else going on. So there was this great amount of patience amongst the band to work in this environment that was down in Mount Kembla.
Yeah, definitely.
And we mixed it over Zoom, which sucked.
That's where you came in. Yeah. No, you didn't suck, but just Zoom sucks. Mixing in Zoom sucks.
no, it's okay if I suck. It's fine. Yeah, I mean, circling back to that record, I think that there's multiple facets. There's so many facets to how music is made, and like there's something about the memories, my memories, which is, you know, not in super direct, but involved in that record and like the energy levels behind it. Like, it's just a capture a moment in time, I think, every record. And I think that the fact that you can't recreate it easily is what makes it valuable and what makes it special, you know. And I think that you can't try and recreate it, and you just, you know, every great moment that has happened to me musically with you guys and, you know, with my brothers and everything, it's always capturing a moment in time that you can't recreate. And I think that's what makes it good. And that you can have more great moments, but it's going to be different. It's going to be.
Sorry.
And I think when people think they've mastered it and they go, oh, I know how to manufacture this now and I can keep recreating it, it's kind of good for them. But it's also like, that's kind of the end of it. It's the end of it actually being valuable and interesting to me. is because it's like no longer like, I don't know, a special moment or like a unique perspective or.
Yeah. I was only going to add on that because I think like moments in time, usually that equates to a certain environment too. Like you want to, if you've done it in that environment, so you wouldn't go back to Bang Saray, for instance, and redo that because that was the moment in time. But interestingly,
Ocean Alley or the Terrys might want to go there now, though.
yeah, possibly, yeah.
Probably been.
But then if you look at comparing Land of Pleasure and Yours to Keep, which are both in the same environment, being Rocking Horse Studios in Byron, they were completely different experiences and just completely different things going on.
I think it doesn't.
And it was interesting because obviously Land of
It's
Pleasure
not
for me was such a like fun, exciting moment, and we had that kind of energy that Pat talks about being in your early 20s, but also the rolling on from Caress and like we need to keep going. And we didn't then there was the place in Croydon Park, and there was just so much energy going that it just all happened and happened so quickly. But then we weren't ever going to recreate that again for the fourth record because I think after Thailand it was like, all right, we're getting pretty washed up. So maybe we actually need to try something we've never done before and just do it completely.
Well, Dylan went
clean.
to rehab.
Yeah.
I went to a psych ward. You went to Weight Watchers. And then
No, I just did CrossFit.
I
made everyone do it with me. Oh, Jenny.
Jenny Craig, please.
How was that? Everybody was different.
Oh man.
Was I like what era was I on that one? Was I like
You were super
like
no, because
full
you woke up.
shaved head?
You were shaved, Slim Shady. You were like doing
I was
20K runs.
I was Slim Shady on that.
You were running up and down the hills of Byron just
Bit of a sick cunt, I must say.
at 6 in the morning. And you were only drinking, like you weren't like green shakes. You weren't actually eating food. I remember you were just everything was in the NutriBullet. Is that true?
I was incredible. I felt
You just said it,
incredible
so yes, it's
constantly.
true.
I just want the confirmation.
And I was in like the which can't last forever. Also, we're all going through interesting phases of life. But no, there's great memories and all of it. But I think it's like I don't think circling back to that record, I remember even thinking when we were making the second record, I remember noticing that it was already very different to the first. And I think that not questioning it and just moving on and just like and then people might then now group them together. But even at the time, they felt really different. And I think every record's been really different and a different experience. But
What I can remember from the Land of Pleasure recording sessions was there was just this freakish energy coming from Dylan in those late night 4 a.m. vocal sessions, just like absolute, just never seen anything like it and haven't seen anything like it since in terms of just vocal performance in the booth.
he was like glowing.
Yeah, he was glowing, lad. It was.
We were pretty high. No, he'd come in.
But he actually
No,
was
he was on
glowing,
fire.
lad.
No, he'd
Yeah.
wear that robe. He'd come in that robe.
Yeah,
I mean,
but not in a
He'd come in the
dickhead
golden
cunty
robe.
way. It was a worthy robe for once.
a certain engineer
He was
had
a wizard.
to connect
He was
for the
an-
best MDMA in Byron.
Yeah, we were feeling good.
No, but look, that might have had something to do with it. But I don't want to.
No, it did. They were great takes.
Don't want to take away from the
I don't want to
brilliance.
take away from what was and what he did, which is what he did, and what he did was something that I'd never seen before at the time, and I still haven't seen again. Just like do these monster, like Lick a Lip Loaded Gun. I remember he just did the song top to tail, just like one take, and it was like, I think we've got it. And then it was
Land
like
of Pleasure as well. Which
it was
was
just
one
like,
take, I
let's
think.
just do it again just to be sure. But then going to mixing with Dan at that place in Melbourne City, whatever that place is called, upstairs, it was real hot. We had the argument about the aircon, whatever. Forget about that part. But then we actually listened back, and take one was kind of the one. Just this stand standing on my head. Oh, yeah. It was...
Standing.
Oh, just the way he was hitting those notes, it was fucking really,
Yeah.
really cool. Really cool.
Nah, he absolutely... And Laserhead, I think,
Yeah,
as well.
I think it was
I think it was
just,
like... were there like 3 or 4 different songs that he like... Whether the first take was used or not, he nailed the first takes like... I don't know, just perfectly. There was that magic.
I think he just knew the songs really. He knew the songs really well, and it was just a magical time. And I think he was in touch with the energy of the songs, and he would not sing them when I asked him to. He would sing them whenever he wanted to. And I think he was in touch with when that should be. And sometimes it was at 2 or 3 in the morning, coming in with this golden cape. And says, let's sing these songs. And the cool thing about that is that I think a lot of those tracks we'd already worked on for a long time, so they were already sounding really good, probably for him to listen to. And I think, yeah, and then it just as soon as he sung it, I was like, that's the record. That's what it's going to sound like. There's no messing about with that. And there was almost every song, my memory on that record, he was just totally in tune with how it should sound from the jump. And it was just insane. And I remember being in the control room, and then with you, Krabs, with your shirt off, and then he would sing certain lines, and I'd turn around and look at it, and your face would just be like jaw on the floor, like, oh my God.
That's funny because that was my
he
memory
was just
of you.
killing everything.
That was my memory of you with your hands.
He was
just on the
killing
desk,
everything.
Just
Yeah, we're all really high.
It was a good confirmation though to know that like it wasn't just that moment. You do like even when we hear it now, and you know.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That there's
is.
a whole bunch of shit happens when you're high, and then later on you're like, oh my God, what have I done? What the hell is that? But this was actually really hot.
Genuine brilliance.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
But yeah, I think it's been the energy was crazy, and I think also good songs. You knew them well. We would worked really hard. There was, you'd worked hard on down in the Croydon demos, and we just got it done. But we were working hard. We were working crazy hours in the studio. Like we were doing 30+ hour days, which doesn't make any sense. But yeah, we would like go into multi-day sessions.
You were still trying to do some laps in the pool in the morning, and I woke up. I was staying upstairs in the attic, and I thought somebody was drowning, and I came running downstairs, and there was this like mid-20s Dan Hume trying to flop about doing butterfly. Weird choice of stroke for a guy who'd been on off the tail of a 4-day bender in a 10-meter pool.
I think you were standing up for most of the swimmers.
But look, I feel like we've covered a lot, and I kind of also we need to stop talking about Land of Pleasure because that record turns 10 next year, so we need to keep something in the tank.
Yeah.
Dopa, I want to ask you a question. Maybe Seamus wants to ask you a question too. Maybe Freddie does also.
Yeah.
Before we wrap this bad boy up, my question to you is, how big's your dick?
You're allowed to pass at any moment
you
as
actually?
well. Yeah. You don't have to answer anything.
Tell the people the size of your cock.
That's what they've all
I
come
surely
for.
thought in our experiences in life together, you probably already know.
Old Long Johnson.
I actually do have a serious question. Or did you want to answer that? Sorry, I butted in.
I think he's all good.
No, obviously not.
Yeah. What are you working on now? Like, who are you working with in this dope little studio?
I'm just finishing up mixing a record. First record that we wrote, recorded, produced, engineered, and mixed all in the studio. It's the first record to come out of here.
Sick.
And it's by a duo out of England called Ida, 2 girls. that I
How do you spell
very
it?
similarly went to a gig, IDER. I similarly how we met. I just happened to be at a show in London a few years ago, and someone invited me to this gig, and I really just thought the band were great. Just said hey and said a quick hello after the show. And
So
then
something's never
came from there,
changed
and I said,
with your method.
yeah.
That's nice.
I think it's a really great way to see a band is to see them in their natural habitat and then to know what the opportunity, know what the energy is and know what the fans' perspective and and the record's great and we just finished mixing it and it was done in very much the way that I think records should be made. We took our time. We went through the experimental phase, the production phase, the writing phase, and then getting everything right. So it's exciting to put that in, to put a record out in the new space.
Hell yeah.
And that's what I'm working on.
Seamus, last question of the day. Better be good.
No, I'm good. I'm good. Hume, good to see ya.
It is good to see you, and you got long
Great
hair.
to see you.
You're always looking different every time I see you.
I know.
Chameleon.
I do. I'm just indecisive or lazy or something. I'm not sure.
Proactive.
No, I got a barber here. In the UK, there's barbers, and they'll cut your hair for £12, £15. But they give you the exact same haircut every single time. And I love them. But every guy in Wales has the exact same haircut. It's the footballer / man in Wales haircut. And I had one of those 6 months ago, so now it's all just grown out. I have no idea what to do. But I know if I go back, I'm just going to get the exact same haircut again. So I need to. I'm just trying to avoid that.
Okay, I'm going to ask the last
I'm going
question.
back to some kind of New Zealand. Yeah.
The last question of the day now is going to be: you have one friend for the rest of your life, and you don't get to see anybody else, and you're also restricted to like a relatively small room, like the size of this podcast studio, maybe. And the two people you get to choose is either Dylan Frost on a bender, on the tail end of a 4-bender, like permanently in that mode, or Freddie Krabs and he's got really bad gastro.
Surely you know which one
I
to
have to
choose,
pick
Dan.
someone to live for the rest of my life with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know what? I will pick Krabs because I will then train, and then eventually beat the shit out of him because revenge for what he did to me in Thailand.
The boxing match.
The Muay Thai
So you
boxing
can-
I
match.
thought
So
we
you can
forever
beat-
buried that story.
You can beat the shit out of him literally for eternity.
We've got the footage. The Muay Thai boxing.
Because
Wild night.
we went into Muay Thai boxing, and I thought the whole thing was a joke because we were obviously having a laugh, and then suddenly you just start actually beating the shit out
Krabs
of me
is
with
wailing
gloves.
on you.
Because
In
I was
front of like 100
Krabs' coach, and I'm not here for fucking pennies. I'm not fucking around, Dan.
It was so irresponsible of me, wasn't it? Because
Inappropriate.
you were
And then
kind of like
I think
Homer
you hit me
Simpson
once,
just
and then
standing
I was-
there. You weren't actually doing anything. Like you couldn't
I thought
stand
you were
up.
confused.
What do you mean?
I could barely stand up, and then I thought you were. I was like, why do you actually keep hitting me? Like, this is meant to be a gag. And then so I was sort of like, just
The gag is that we're
having a
hitting each
laugh.
other, though, isn't it?
Yeah, real prick Krabs.
Yeah.
and then you keep
Crabs.
actually just pounding me like in the face. But that by the point, and so at some point I was like, I guess I got to hit him back. But at that point, I'm like so comatose from these hits to the face. I was just dizzy. And then they were like, round 3, and you're back in, and I'm like, oh god.
We'd been on a boat drinking all day as well.
Oh yeah, we tried to go on like a nice like sunset cruise, but there's a bit of like a lost in translation where we'd ended up on this Thai fishing boat
Yeah, it was a
with,
wild
our
day.
with our
With a bottle
gym-
of Jack Daniels. With our usual, the endless bottle of Jack Daniels. Or 3. All right, Hume, we won't keep you all day. I'm sure you have
Yeah, so
Records to make.
there would be a training montage of me becoming ultra strong, and then I would face crabs and get true revenge.
Beat the liquid shit out of his gastro ass.
Perfect. I'll allow it. I'll allow it.
Plus, I think we would be good company.
Yeah, the gastros are hypothetical, of course.
He would be stuck with.
It's non-shemedical.
No, it is great to see you all. I haven't seen you. When was the last time I see you in the flesh? A year or so ago.
Ali Pally? Did you come Ali Pally?
Yeah. The Ali Pally show.
In London?
You know, Alexandra
Was that the
Palace.
last time I
You know,
saw
the
it?
big show we played in London. 10,000 people.
10,000 people sold out.
Oh yeah. It was sold out. Yeah, it actually
You
was a mad
forget,
show,
right?
yeah.
Sold out in a day. But they're always a
When
quick
are you
one,
coming
aren't
back to
they?
play more Ali Pallys.
Oh, buddy wop.
Yeah. But no, I look forward to seeing you again.
We love you, Dan. Thank you
so
for
I hope
everything
it's
you've
soon.
done for us, and I'm sure you thank us for everything we've done for you too.
Thanks for stopping by on the Boppa.
I absolutely do. No, thanks for having me. Hopefully, my first podcast. I didn't get into too much trouble.
You blew it. You totally blew it.
Mm.
It's gonna go live in 10 seconds from now.
Great to see you guys. Look forward to seeing you all again soon. And everyone go and buy the new LP. It's probably sold out already, I imagine.
I don't know. Possibly. No.
Now it is.
No.
Wait,
No.
actually,
and, have a listen
now.
to
Now it
listen
is.
to the have a listen to the new mix of Bootleg, because it's way more legit.
Yeah,
Mm.
cop that.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that.
That.
Do you like it, Seamus?
Yeah, I love it. You did 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 it again, Hume.
Do you know? Actually, I'll tell you the back. I'll tell you the backstory of why I did that 23 mix. I never told anyone, but I'll tell you on the podcast. When you guys were playing Splendor one year, we were talking about something. We were talking, and Seamus, you offhandedly mentioned that you were like, you just offhandedly mentioned, no, without, I don't think you meant to make a big moment of it, but then you were like, da-da-da-da-da, these songs are great. And then you were like, if only we got the mix right on Bootleg Rascal.
I was just sitting with you for
And
years.
I remember it. And as soon as you said it, I was like, I completely agreed with you. I was like, yeah, fuck. Because whenever I hear it, I was always like, that doesn't sound like how it's meant to sound. I mean, that's how people know the song. But then I was like, I remember thinking, oh, one day I'll remix that song for fun.
Well, because it was the
And so as
last
soon as the opportunity got.
it was the last track I think we mixed on that session, and we were tight for time. We were pumping out the whole thing, and then it just felt like I guess when I was saying that to you, I imagine like I don't know, we'd grown so much already, so I was like, God, imagine if we'd pumped it out like we are now.
No, I appreciate the honesty. I think also there was it needs to be massive and all this stuff, but I think it was all there. I also think that just the confidence of, just to get to, what's the word? Just to make it more raw and capture what was done on the day. And, but yeah, 5 years later, however many years later it was,
Oh, good. I fully forgot about
when
that.
the album was mentioned, I was like, for Seamus, I got to remix that song. So
You
he
can
doesn't
sleep
say
now,
that
brother.
Thank you, Hume.
You can sleep.
again. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I do vaguely. Yeah, I love it. Well, it was always my thoughts when
I
you
took it to heart.
when you said I'm going to remix it. I was like, oh yeah, that I've always thought the same thing. How funny.
I stole your idea. But no, I think whenever I hear that album in the background, which I do, like literally about a week ago, I was at this restaurant, this great Japanese restaurant up in Dennis Powys towards Cardiff. They were playing the album. But anyway, every now and when I hear it, whenever I hear bootleg, I'm always like, it's not the right version. But now people can play it soon.
Beauty. Dan
Well-
Hume, thank you so much. I miss you. We all miss
Rock
you.
and roll, boys. Miss you lots.
Cheer.
Till next time. Like and subscribe.
All right. What do we pretend like he's gone now and talk a little bit?
No, because we did the intro already.
Yeah, we are.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, that's
I
it.
think that's it.
All right,
That's
we're
it.
done.
We're done.
Yeah.
We're done here.